I'm going to let Sidney introduce the panelists, but I will introduce Sidney. So Sidney Pell is a Consumer Insights Manager with us. She joined us about 1.5 years ago from Clayton Homes. Clayton Homes builds 50,000 homes a year, a few homes, all in factories, and she brought a lot of the consumer insights to them, and now she's bringing that same technology and process to us. So Sidney, I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, everyone. So our topic this morning is how do you address attainability? And who we have on our panel, first we've got Carola Cherief, who is the VP of Sales and Marketing for Trumark. We have John Osborne, who's joining us. He's VP for National Builders and ReadyFrame, as well as Rhett, Yeary, who is the National Design Director for Pulte Homes. And they are each going to address a different side of attainability. But first, so sorry, I'm not prepared. I did want to kind of set the stage a little bit for these first-time buyers in the market. How do we address attainability? Earlier, John mentioned that in our recent Consumer and Product Insights study, we created a more precise life stage classification system. And looking through the lens of life stages is important because it really dictates the needs and wants for all of the different buyers that we have out in the marketplace. And we were able to take this data, this survey of over 23,000 new home buyers, and we were able to pinpoint who exactly are most likely to be those first-time buyers in the market. And what we found is that they are typically younger and they don't have children at home. These are the ones who are entering the market and are making that first-time purchase. So one of the questions that we get asked a lot are, what are those big motivating factors? What's bringing them to the table? What's making them make this decision? And what we found is that it's very multifaceted, just like people. It's not just one thing. Of course, there's sensitivity to the market itself. They want to buy before prices increase. They want to buy before rates increase. But they're also looking at a home that's better designed for them, their lifestyle, who's living in it. In addition to that, they are thinking about the future. There are people who are thinking about marriage, growing their family, and we all know that that really dictates how the spaces get used, and we have to keep that in mind as we move forward. Some of the biggest obstacles that they face are supply. In their mind, they can't find what they're looking for. There aren't available homes in the market. This is a gap that needs to be filled, and this is where innovation can really step in, and this is where we have the opportunity to fill that gap for these buyers. One thing I do want you to take away is that you can't design and build for everything. You can't market for everything. You really have to get a good, solid grasp on what's important to these consumers, these first-time buyers. So we created these profile pages for our clients to help wrap it all up, put it all in one spot for you. Understand what's most important. What can you emphasize? What are those trade-offs that these consumers are willing to make? And keep that in mind as you move forward. Later today, we're going to have a workshop where you're going to be able to get into groups and design an attainable housing solution for these first-time buyers. Hopefully this is something you'll see later, and it will help you as you move along that workshop. So now that we've kind of set that up, we've got a great panel here to help illuminate more about how can you enter the attainable housing market. So I think we're going to get started here with, I'm so sorry, this is not working. Here we go. So Carola, please take it away.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we're going to talk about attainability today. Thank you. So first of all, who's Trumark? So we are a leading based California real estate firm, and we have over 100 professionals in the state of California that work for us. We are made up of 4 different companies. So it's Trumark Companies that embraces Trumark Commercial, and then 2008 we developed Trumark Homes, which is a home builder, then Trumark Urban, and then later on we have Trumark Communities that does master developers. And we are very excited that in 2018 we were named Professional Builders Builder of the Year. And so I wanted you to understand a little bit about who we are a little bit more, so I have a video to show you.
Well, first of all, I can't believe it's 30 years. We must have been like 10 when we started. That's what I feel like.
Yeah. You and I have never been good about looking back. We're always so much about what's going to happen next. But what do you think about when you think back over 30 years?
It's definitely been an adventure filled with twists and turns. All through it all, we've had the privilege of working with some really great people. Early on in our 30-year journey, we determined some guiding principles to ensure that we were becoming who we wanted to be as a company and as individuals.
We knew we could only succeed if we had amazing people with giftedness that were better than ours in certain areas, and together we could do something we couldn't just do with ourselves. We had a couple of great years. We thought we were brilliant, and it turns out it was just a good time in the market. In the 1990s, it was a disaster. Sometimes it's during your worst moments you actually develop the bedrock for what makes you in the future. And from that, I think we learned a lot about integrity. We lived it out. People believed that about us. We also learned about creative problem solving and deal making and things that became foundational to our business. We began to discover about ourselves, what is it we love to do? And we came along with the mission statement, which is to enhance the lives of people by creating inspiring living environments.
We've been fortunate to build a great variety of projects, including mixed-use sites, master planned communities, townhomes to high-rise condominiums, and that has been a thrill. We don't want to just do the same thing we've always done. We like that sense of thinking different.
We need to create places to live before people realize that's how they want to live. People have asked Greg and I, what's the future like for you?
Yeah, making a bigger impact on the way people will live in the future. We identified an organization called Charity Water that facilitate drilling wells in many parts of Africa. Every 50 homes that we sell, we make a donation that makes it possible for about 200 people to have clean water access. Great for them, it's great for the team to understand that our efforts have a multiple bottom line effect.
So that's a little bit about us. So that was created for actually the employees of the company. So that's why it was a little bit more employee than product driven. But anyway, so we are historically known for move up and luxury homes. As a matter of fact, our building in Northern California and San Francisco, the Pacific, was sold at over $30,900 a square foot. So as we're going to talk today to you about Center House, which was our really first step into the first time a buyer attainable market. What we are all about is that we build homes with the target buyer in mind. And so as you heard Mike Maples, our principal, our owners say, we really, every step of the way, we think about our mission statement, which was to enhance the lives of people by creating inspiring living environments. So we wanted to have that same buyer experience for the people at Center House that we had for the people that were buying our most expensive communities. So, sorry, that was supposed to be the right slide. So this is Center House. It's in Ontario, California. There's 114 condominiums, and it's from 1430 to 1946 square feet. So it's typical with 2-car garages, et cetera. And it is well under the FHA limits for California, which are $431,000 in this area. We sold 66 homes in 12 months out of the 114. And so we're continuing to sell. The models opened in April. Some of the first homes we sold, and I'll show you how, with virtual reality. And the architect for Center House is Kevin Cook. So Center House was all about creating a little bit of those spaces. We're in a tight environment, but we wanted to create a paseo so people could, stroll to the pool and have nice events. So it's a very agreeable area to live in. So it's especially since it's 15 DUs to the acre, so it was important to marry that density with livability. So we have 3 floor plans, and 2 are typical townhomes. One has a downstairs bedroom, even though the home is they're small. We were able to put a downstairs bedroom, and we have a flat that's over garage, so it has no one living below it, and it is our most popular floor plan. Which this is the residence one, and we're also it's important to us in California to always be able to give access to outdoor living, so we have this house, a really, really expansive deck. Interior design was chosen with this buyer in mind. It's bright, cheerful, but yet simple, and we chose furniture that they could themselves afford. Residence 2, just very, very compact. And we chose also offer certain little amenities that other people were not offering. For instance, you can see in that powder room, there's a little shelf that we took advantage of with that was underneath the stairs. And these were included features so that the buyers did not have to add, options. Residence 3 is also a very favored model with the downstairs bedroom. And this is an award-winning plan. We did win a design award for this. With Chameleon Design for the best interior design at our price point. So what we thought was interesting is this time we didn't take these buyers to the design centers because of the affordability issue. We created packages with designers to sell to them that upgraded a little bit at each time, a different series, and we brought down our margins a bit, and we doubled what we had performed in this way. Everyone felt like they could afford a package. And the most expensive package, which some did take, was really a knockoff of the models. We took what the models were, and we knocked them off a little bit and chose the same colors, but was able to offer the same look, thus get the look. Finally, because we were not able to get on site for a while, we rented a kiosk in the mall, which we outfitted, and we had virtual goggles and virtual reality, and this millennial buyer was able to walk through the homes before the models were done, and that was something that they really thought was exciting, and we were able to capture traffic in the local mall. And currently online, you can still go and tour the models virtually. And what we often do for this, first-time buyer is we have lender workshops to help them not only figure out because that's the most difficult for them, not only, how to get a loan, but just to educate them through the whole buying process. We take little groups at a time, 10, 12 buyers, and they really appreciate that, and we help them fill out paperwork or do anything that's necessary in that home buying process. That's it.
So I have one quick question for you. Since Trumark is typically a luxury buyer, what were your biggest obstacles as you moved into the attainable housing market? And if there's anything you could have done differently, is there something that kind of stands out to you?
Interesting enough is, as much as the luxury is, for most of us, obviously, you go to the Four Seasons and it's a luxurious experience, right? And you go to so luxury is not only a product in itself, but it's also an experience, and it's how you are treated. And as long as you continue to give that same experience to a first-time buyer, they feel like they're luxurious. We had another lender experience this weekend. Our buyers are comfortable sitting in the model homes, and we cater to them and whatever, and we make them feel so important that this is a really luxurious experience. And I think that other than the fact that you have to have obviously the right price, the right product, you really have to focus on that experience. So I would have to think about what I would do differently, because at this point, maybe if we have more first-time buyer communities, I could come back and give you something what I would do differently. But right now, so far so good. So.
That's great. Awesome. Thank you. So next up, we have John Osborne, who is VP at National Builders and Ready Frame. Okay,
Yeah, hey everybody. I don't know a lot of you. I know some of you. My name's John Osborne, and I'm a customer-facing person. Hey, CR, how you doing? With a company called BMC. It stands for Building Materials Corporation. We're a distributor, manufacturer, and we are responsible for, or in the chain of people that help deliver these homes. So it's oftentimes, I'm not talking to design professionals, but it's oftentimes the design professionals and architectural firms that create these beautiful products that are oftentimes difficult for people like us to deliver, and for builders and construction professionals, it's difficult to deliver. So I titled this Unwasted, because we do waste a lot of products. And I wanted to increase the awareness around this and what can be done about it. So the biggest waste offenders you'll see: time, quality, excess materials. If you guys walk job sites, you see it. You see dumpsters. We pay for materials to fill the dumpsters, and then we pay to haul them away, and we pay for hundreds of dollars worth of people sitting around, wasting time on job sites. The way that we do it today, it's a very tangled web of subcontractors, all with very expensive trucks and presidents and CEOs and COOs and our industry. There's a lot of people that make really good money, if you think about it. So we have a very lucrative industry. Our salespeople make very good money. Our installers make very good money in our industry nowadays. So this distribution, manufacturing, subcontracting world that we live in makes it hard to afford a home, and there really is a crisis of affordability in our country. Many people can't afford homes. So we're trying to do something about it. As a company, we started about 12 years ago. We started trying to figure out how to take information out of plans and automate and pre-cut materials. And it all starts in design, which we'll talk about. We're actually working on a project right now with Pulte and some other builders on streamlining design and taking it straight into manufacturing. Today it's a manual process. So we're trying to address it through affordability, through a manufacturing solution that we call ReadyFrame. We market it as a framing solution, but it's really a whole house solution where we start with the framing package, which essentially is the bones of your home, if you think about it. So that the window openings are exact, your cabinets are going to fit. They're not going to need that special filler that you got to order that takes 3 weeks to get that special paint color, and the kitchen's not finished, or the window didn't fit, so you got to wait on the siding, or the wasn't enough XYZ product, and you had to wait for the trades to come back, and all that time, all that excess communication, phone calls, order entry people, order pickers, people in the background driving trucks, truck drivers, those jobs that can't be filled because of that inefficiency throughout our process can be solved if we can get the frame right, in our opinion. If we can get the frame right on the products that the designers and architects design, we can essentially have a better chance of delivering it in a timely fashion. So it starts with design. Today we have actually, this slide is dated, almost 300 designers that sit in, with headphones and take plans, and we actually have to redraw every single one of them today. So, we redraw them in our own software that communicates to our saws. The project we're working on with Pulte is attempting to take information out of Revit or your platform and then directly drop it into our saws so we can increase the efficiency of our designers to reduce our cost to you. We want to go to your job sites less so we can charge you less. Today, for those builders or anyone that's been in this room in a purchasing role, I don't like you, because typically you will just go for the lowest price. But I would tell you that I would challenge this industry to think about cost, to think about the overall cost to do something. Typically, this product does not cost more; it's priced not more. So here's a simple little study we did. We've got more in-depth studies, but this Exact same house we framed with 4 framers in 5 days, where traditional framing, it took 6 framers 11 days and it didn't pass inspection. The graph on the right is a sales line. You know, we did almost $250 million in sales of a new product that was launched in 2013. So we're trying to create a solution for the industry. Here's an example right here in Houston. This is an Ashton Wood Starlight product. We partnered with them in design and designed all the homes in advance. We would deliver 4 and 5 houses at a time. If you look in the upper kind of left center of the corner, you see 4 houses framing at the same time. We drop those at the same time. There's 1 framer on that job site, and he brings 1 crew that frames 4 houses at a time. You know, they just share the work. All the materials are pre-cut for them, so it's an assembly process. So these guys were able to finish these 77 homes in 90 days, including siding. That framer is also putting on the siding, doing the windows. There's multiple consolidation of trades. Those trades can go to the job site. They can earn more money by being at that job site one time. So that consolidation of trades trend is happening there. And then there's a piece on energy that really is important. In the last session, Max talked about air quality, you know, and how it's really important to people. Air quality is really important. So with a precisely framed home, it's more airtight, and you know, you can have a better chance of purifying that air back and forth. So there's some really neat residual benefits. I don't want to sound too much like a self, you know, promoter for my company, but I am. So we actually have started to count the number of houses that we do. We used to count it in sales dollars. Now we have a new CEO, and he said, why are you guys talking in dollars when all your customers talking how many units they closed? So we switched to that. We built 17,000 houses last year, you know, which is a pretty significant number for off-site manufacturing, really, when you think about it. And we have really lofty goals, you know, to improve our own capability and capacity. It's been a challenge for ourselves to train ourselves to do things differently. You know, as an industry, you know, picking up lumber and dumping it in the dirt and having people that you don't know put it together and hope that all the things that professionals design fit just right hasn't been a great solution. You know, there's people like Katera and Integra that are out there, you know, boasting that they can do really good things, and I think they are doing some really good things that are pushing our industry to think differently, to challenge people like us. The thing that we have is we have a footprint, you know, so we have, you know, 100 lumber yards and 36 ready frame facilities and wall panel manufacturing facilities around the country that can hopefully deliver on this for you. So if you're interested in doing business with us, you probably already know us, you know, contact one of your people locally or call CR for my number. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I think that's everything.
I do have a question for you as well. I apologize. So what do you think the biggest misconception is about this off-site manufacturing as you're working with builders, and how are you working to overcome those kind of objections, if you will?
So off-site manufacturing, the biggest objection we come across is price. You know, so everyone's always, what's your price? You know, and there's been more forward-thinking builders who actually are thinking about cost and about cycle time, and they really understand that, you know, conversion of cash, and, you know, you don't really get to count your money until you finish your home. So, you know, the decision-making in a home building process is so fragmented. You know, the construction guy's got a say, or gal's got a say, and the sales team has a say in what goes in the house, and, you know, the purchasing manager has a say. So finding out how to get all that group of people on the same page has probably been the biggest obstacle to moving forward. But I would tell you that I feel like that my personal feeling is that design, architecture, 3D BIM is going to drive major change in our side of it. But the question is can the manufacturers, distributors, you know, people like ourselves react to that and be able to supply on. I think everyone would want it. There's all these surveys that say people want offsite manufacturing. They think it's going to be better. But I mean, no offense if anyone from Integra is in here, but they can build 1 or 2 houses a day, which is not very many. Katerra's scaling up to build many more multifamily segments. I think they're going to make a big impact. So it's going to be an interesting road.
Thank you. And next we have Rhett Yeary from Pulte.
Really appreciate you guys having me here. I want to kind of give it an overview of who we are and what we do, but primarily I want to open up a discussion about how we really think about this gap that we all recognize in the housing market for those that we are underserving at the bottom of the chart, and I'll get more to that in a minute. Currently, Pulte Group is comprised of 5 different companies, originally started by Bill Pulte in Detroit. First acquisition was the Del Webb project and company. The Syntex came after that, and then DeVosta and John Whelan Homes. And each one of these is a little different, and it brings a different thought process to the game, as well as a bit of a different business model. And for those of you that work in the different aspects of each market, you understand that sometimes when you introduce a different company into your branding strategy, it makes you think differently. It opens up areas of thought that you hadn't previously encountered. And so when you think as we used to call it, you drink the Pulte Kool-Aid, and then you introduce a Syntex line, and everybody's going, "Oh, you spend what for that? You're building how many of those?" You're opening up these patterns of thought in your mind of like, wait a minute, I don't know everything I need to know about this business. And so that's one of the key things that has occurred to us in this journey we've been on is just the information integration that we go through when we integrate one of these companies into our brand. And I'll talk more about that in a second. But Syntex is, I'm going to give you kind of a laughable here, but we view this as our affordable line. It has been historically our entry level. And then Pulte is the kind of the main brand that obviously we began with, but we build multiple strategies within the Pulte label. Many different design awards. We have several of our designers and architects here today. Several of these examples from the Southwest. We build nationally, all over the book. We do attached, detached. We do stack flats. We do pedestals. In the Northeast, we do quite a bit more density than we do in the rest of the country. But the design team, we work on every product for every brand. And so that cross-pollination of information and approach to the business is actually quite unique. The Del Webb stuff brings in an aspect of an amenitized product line, the mindset of providing an active adult location has transitioned many times over the last few years. As was mentioned, the Del Webb brand was initially get away from your kids, go out and buy 8,000 acres somewhere and then figure a way to get your RV close to your house. So you needed a big amount of property. And but the business of that has changed because we can't carry that amount of property anymore from year to year. So tremendous shift in this industry, which is actually quite interesting. And then the DeVosta is a Florida builder that we acquired. It is actually also age targeted in some communities, but then also move up retirement in others. And then lastly, the most recent acquisition of John Whelan Homes in Atlanta. This provided an upper level product for us that we will be expanding upon. And so we do neighborhood design with this as well as amenitized amenity designs, and then multifamily, attached, things of that nature. So a year ago, Mark went through this process. I'm not going to go through it again. I just want to kind of highlight on a little bit of the process that we use, because having this many brands under our belts, We had to develop a way to approach the design process that would work across the board. And the key thing that we realized is we needed multiple touch points in this for the consumer, because at the end of the day, we're really building products for the consumers. Whether that's active adult, whether that's entry level, whether it's move-up buyers. So that we developed this 12-step process that we use. And we've got 3 touch points for the consumer along this line. But the first 2 is really what I want to highlight, and then kind of get into this whole discussion of affordability. Because the first thing is that we validate and we define an opportunity. And then the second thing we do is we gather inputs. And then as you go down the road, we have all these touch points of value engineering and consumer validation and building prototypes and doing design charrettes. But the basis of it was that you see an opportunity, you see a need, and then you develop and you collect input. This is an interesting slide. This is basically our average sale price from 2014 to 2018 by brand. On the bottom line, you see the Syntex line, you see the blue line of the Del Webb, and then intertwined, you see the Pulte brand and the Devasta price points. And then, as you can see also, we picked up the Wheeland properties, and you see what those average sales prices are. But now keep in mind, these product lines are infinitely diverse, even within the brand. So, like I was mentioning about the Pulte, we do attached, we do detached, we do multifamily. So these are averages within a brand, not by product type. So if we looked at breaking it out by product type, we would have a product lineup within the Pulte brand that would take us in between that $200,000 and $300,000 range, but it would still stair-step pretty much the same way. And we looked at this when we started to open the door for thinking about affordable. And the reason I refer to it that way and not millennial or first time is because what we realized when we did gathering input is that these are empty nesters, these are buy downs, these are people that want to, get rid of their McMansions. They want to travel more, they don't want so much house, but there's also first time buyers. It's also millennials that want to put 4 in a house. They're going to all share the payment, and just one of them has to decide to be the owner. It's a unique market out there that we look at, but this graph shows us we don't play down there. We're missing a piece of the puzzle, and a lot of you have come to that realization as well, I know. As you can see here, our price point in our hour, that's the reason I said it was a little bit laughable. Our Syntex entry-level stuff is an average sales price in that $200,000 range. And the reality of what we've come to realize is that there is this whole product line that we show here, this is only 20 to 22% of the new home buying opportunity nationally for us. So we're missing 75 to 80% of the potential new home buyers by not going below a $200,000 price point. And the way that the research has shown us is that between $45,000 and $75,000 a year household income represents 65% of the total opportunity for new home buyers. So identifying the need, it's immensely great. And that's not just total income, that's the amount, it represents also what they want to spend on housing. Because there are some people that are wanting to downsize and travel and do things like that. They've got the money, but they just don't want to spend the money. So they introduce a quality aspect of requirement into these houses that you don't think about normally when you think, oh, I'm going to do entry-level homes. You can't really categorize it that way in your brain. You got to think, this has got to be attainable. This has got to be affordable. So I'm glad we took out that first-time kind of mindset about it. It's an interesting aspect, but when you get into it, when we did our research, the diversity of what they were really looking for in a home was across the board. Some of it was you know, key on storage because they've had a big house, but now they're moving down. Some of them want formal dining, some don't. Some want single dining. So they all want quality and they want it to be affordable. So as you get down to those things, that's the reason I went through the 12-step process a little bit, is it gets you to the point where you really put yourself in the head of the consumer. Too many times we sit in a meetings and we think, okay, we're going to put our Pulte glasses on, or we're going to put our Devasta glasses on, or we're going to put our Dell Webb glasses on. And what we realized when we started doing the design charrette for this is we really didn't have an affordable set of glasses that were appropriate to the need of the consumer. And so what we did is we had to retrain ourselves. And so we did the foolish thing. We, like most builders do, we went in and said, hey, how many of our existing plans do we have that we can just sort of strip them down and make them affordable? But it didn't meet any of the objectives from the consumers. And we realized that very quickly. So it was start with a new, fresh piece of paper, start with a new mindset, go to plan simplicities, be able to leverage almost everything that you're doing from plan to plan. So I've got some bullet points here that we sort of came up with, our kind of our tenets of approach to this project. And in a clockwise fashion, we went from this analysis that kind of showed us what kind of fools we were to rethinking. And so we've went into the modular construction techniques, how to save money there. And I use that phrase to lead into this, is it's not about saving money from building at a certain level down to another level. It's about looking at your total cost and looking at your processes. We came to realize that if we would standardize the kitchens from plan to plan to plan, and I know for some architects, I'm being one, realize that that's hideous. I can't have the same kitchen in every house. But in this product line, for this buyer, they're like, I'm fine with that. That's fine. As long as I can get that price down and it's got great quality, I can live with that. And so we realized that by looking at that part of the process, we can take out the gap where somebody has to come in and measure your kitchen for your countertops. So the countertops can be prefabricated. Stairs can be prefabricated. Everything in the house, we can start to look at it in a different way, so that how fast can we build this house, and what would we have to rethink if we were thinking total cost and time of completion. Reduced SKU strategies. We're working on this project right now, and in one of the housing lineups, we only have 2 window sizes. How many of you would love to only have 2 window sizes in an 8-plan lineup? Things of that nature just sort of jump out at you as the easy ones. But then we want to leverage the potential of everything that we do within these houses so that we actually can start doing some buying power decisions and getting those things. And then lastly, quality. Everything that we do within our brand strategy is to maintain a level of excellence and quality no matter what we're doing. And so that's one of the things that really grated against our creative juices, was how can we approach this affordable project without it just being stripped down versions of what we do normally. And we come to realize that if we'll focus on the nuts and bolts of the business, we can actually add in and do the nice things that these buyers expect. We can do granite countertops if they're prefabricated. We can do nice finishes as long as we can do the same finish from house to house to house. So this whole project got us into this mindset of rethinking, but we had to always come back to that design strategy of how do we provide quality and excellence within our brand strategy at this price point. Because you can't stop being who you are. You got to maintain who you are, even within this market. So that's how we're approaching it.
Thank you. I do have a question for you as well. You spoke earlier about just the initial reaction of entering into the attainable market, and everybody's kind of like, what are you doing? What advice would you give for a builder that needs to actually get that conversation kick-started? Because a lot of times it seems the obstacle is actually just talking about it and what's the best strategy. What advice would you give?
It was kind of comical because we thought about this initially. We thought, well, we don't want too many cooks in the kitchen. We don't want to bring in the procurement people because they're just going to mess it up. They're just going to strip stuff out, or they're going to limit our thought process. Design and designers and builders are always at that kind of conflict. But what we realized is that if we can establish the ground rules of what the targets really are, and we call it, this is our design, we establish a design guide for each product that we produce. So we establish a design guide. As long as everyone agrees that this is the level playing field that we're looking at, and these are the things we're going to work towards, then everybody can be brought into the equation, and they can bring that synthesis of thought. And you have to have it. You have to have the people that are bringing in the ideas about modularity and job site construction. If you don't have to ever have anybody come out and clean your job site, how nice would that be? If you come out with, are we going to consider panelization? Are we going to consider trusses? Are we going to stick frame? All that stuff comes into the mix, and you bring everybody to the table, but you always have to sift it through the lens of, this is what the tenet is for this project, and we're not going to waver on what our requirements are.
Excellent, thank you. So just to recap really quickly, so with Trumark, it's really all about experiences and making sure we don't lose sight of those great experiences for our buyers. Here at ReadyFrame, it's really all about streamlining those processes, right, and getting efficiency is really the priority. And then it's just making sure everybody is on board with the general idea and the spirit of it. So at this time, we do want to open up the floor to questions for our panelists. And if you have a question, please raise your hand and just give us your name and direct your question to the panelist that you would like to ask. See one over here?
Yeah, what's the cost difference from the ReadyFrame versus panelization?
What's the price or what's the cost?
Well, the efficiencies,
Yes.
what's the benefit?
So, thank you. Okay, so the best answer I can give you is it depends by builder. Our most mature markets are like Seattle and Colorado, and the builders there, division presidents and builders would tell you that it costs less to use ReadyFrame because they see the other benefits. Now, as far as a full value stream analysis, where we've sat down with builders and really looked inside their cost structure and looked inside our cost structure, that's a project that we have underway right now with a few builders, where we're really starting to look inside of ourselves, and seeing if we can reduce our costs so that we can serve this product for even less when it comes to price. Typically, the price for a ReadyFrame package is around 5% plus or minus what a traditional framing package would cost. So if it's $20,000 for a framing package, it might be $19,500. It might be $20,500. The truth is that a $20,000 framing package only needs about $18,500 worth of material. So $1,500 is either going in the house that doesn't need to be there because your framer thinks that 4 stud corners look really great and he does his layout from this side of the room, and your window isn't exactly where you think it's going to be, so that material gets thrown in the dumpster. So the price and cost equation, I don't know if I answered your question.
Really between panelization and your product.
Well, our product is,
In Denver, right?
yep.
And they're still antiquated. There's only a couple people that do panels. You can't find panel plants, right? So you're the next option. But in the DC market, it's all panels. So I'm curious as to what's your cost, what's your benefits versus a panel?
Sure. So for us to produce a ReadyFrame cut package, it might cost us $500 or $600. A couple $100 for a designer, a couple $100 for people to cut and bundle the material, and a couple $100 extra for processing and where we touch it. So we have to take some of that $1,500 and use it, to pay for equipment, and because we have our own saws and software and people to maintain these facilities across the United States. We don't have just forklifts and pickup trucks. We've got manufacturing facilities. So in a roundabout way, panels tend to cost more money because the framer doesn't want to give up his square foot rate, whereas cut packages tend to be a little bit more economical and more doable. So we feel like that cut package solution is a reasonable step for builders to take, because the big offsite manufacturers aren't really scaled to serve our industry yet. So long story short, I think it should be about the same, and that's what people that have tried it find. I hope I answered your question.
Maybe I'll take a shot at that, because I've been talking to some of the folks that use you as well as Integra. Imagine you got 77 homes built in 90 days, all the time savings associated with that, except the industry hasn't figured out how to get the rest of the subcontractors on board. So what I'm hearing is that, yeah, I'm getting the home frame faster, but still the plumbers are there's the big long delay. Somebody's going to come along and streamline the whole process. Where, like, an extreme would be where Sidney used to work at Clayton. I toured their factory where they start with lumber, and by the end of the day, there are 10 houses complete rolling out the back door. The way they do that is when they get the thing framed, they've got like a dozen people with headlamps inside the house, because it's dark, putting everything in and getting it done. And the industry hasn't figured out how to take a completely framed house and in a couple days get everything done on the inside and get it complete, but I think it's headed there. And that'll be the big cost savings.
Absolutely. And also waste. That's one of the big benefits that Clayton used to use as they differentiated themselves in the market, is that at the end of the day, and I realize it's a different product, but they had 2 garbage bags full of waste, and that was it. When you consider your traditional site-built home, you've got dumpsters full of waste. And so there's a lot to be said for the efficiency and the streamlining of these processes.
Clayton's sales price out the door, sales price is $22 a square foot. That's what they're selling it to the dealers for.
Remarkable. Are there any other questions from the audience for any of our panelists? Yes.
In California and many cities, there's a movement towards prevailing wage. And I think there's another cost savings possibility there. Actually, that could add 23%, I understand. I think I read that in the John Burns site, to labor costs. So could one of you talk about, or all of you talk about, how you can cut labor costs with offsite construction?
Okay, so the way you can cut labor costs with offsite construction is that you don't need as many people on the job to assemble as you do, the smart people to figure out how to put it together. So the people that are making out big right now with offsite construction, is particularly our product, are the framers, because they're tending not to give breaks to the builders. They still charge $5 or $6 a foot because they can, and you guys need your houses built. So that's a challenging, you need a partnership. And what I tell you is that example that I shared is a really good one with Ashton, in that they did consolidate those other trades. Less people did more work, and they partnered to find that labor savings so that they could really achieve that affordability for those consumers. And they have a full strategy with sales and how they handle the transaction with the people that come through, and having available product through design. So I'm impressed with what they did. I've got a lot of other builders in here that I'm impressed with a lot of the things that they're doing, the Live Now product from Meritage in particular. So.
Okay, well, please join me in thanking this panel. Okay, well, we're running 7 minutes behind, but we'll take a 15-minute break anyway. We'll see you back here in 15 minutes. Thank you.